All right, let's jump right in. There's this huge fundamental reordering of global power happening right now. And you know what's driving it? It's not treaties, it's not tanks, it's artificial intelligence. This is what people are starting to call the Great Algorithmic Realignment. You see this quote? It's from a pretty recent US Army analysis. And the thing is, it's not some far-off prediction anymore. Not at all. As of right now, 2026, we are living this. This new reality is here. The race for AI supremacy, it's happening as we speak, and it's basically deciding who's got the power and who doesn't. And forget the idea of a Cold War. This is, well, it's a hot one. Some sources are even calling it a techno-industrial war. It's this state of constant competition where the old rules of global power have just been completely thrown out the window. The battlegrounds now, they're not just physical territories anymore. They're the digital and industrial backbones that our entire modern world runs on. So to really wrap our heads around this new era, we need a new term. It's called Pax Silica. Think about it. We've had Pax Romana, Pax Americana. Well, now, as the Atlantic Council and World Economic Forum have been pointing out, power flows from controlling the stuff that makes AI work. The new currency of power isn't just about money or military might anymore. It really boils down to three core things: data, compute power, and, crucially, the energy to fuel it all. Okay, so that leads us right into the central conflict that's defining our world. It's basically a two-horse race, a bipolar contest between the two big global models for using AI, and they both have radically different ideas about what the future should look like. So on one side, you've got the United States. They're going all in on AI dominance. Their whole goal is what they call cognitive overmatch, basically using superior AI to outthink and outmaneuver any adversary. And their strategy? It's all about controlling the most advanced hardware, the chips, and then exporting their tech to trusted allies. Then on the other side, you have China with its AI Plus initiative. Their vision is, well, it's a bit different. It's less about pure military might and way more about a total economic transformation. They're weaving AI into their massive manufacturing base to create what they call a smart economy. And this table really lays it all out, doesn't it? It breaks down these two competing philosophies so clearly. You see the US using laws like the Match Act? That's the one that clamps down on exports of key chip-making tech to create these choke points in the supply chain. At the same time, they're building these gigantic data centers, mostly with private money. China, meanwhile, is taking a different route with its 15th five-year plan. They're coordinating a whole national system of computing clusters, and they're powering it all with their dominance in renewables. So you can see, they're building their power bases in fundamentally different ways. But here's the thing. Neither strategy is foolproof. Both have a pretty big vulnerability. For all its leadership in hardware, the United States has a critical dependency. I mean, those massive data centers that power American AI, they are incredibly hungry for energy. And as the Brookings Institution has pointed out, they're becoming more and more reliant on Chinese-made solar panels and batteries to keep the lights on. That gives Beijing a ton of leverage, right? Okay, so now let's flip that around. What's China's weak spot? Well, their Achilles heel is getting their hands on that super specialized equipment you need to make the most advanced chips. And the US knows this, and they're hitting them right there with strict export controls, like that Match Act we mentioned. The whole point is to stop China from buying or even servicing these choke point technologies that they just can't build themselves yet. It's a really high-stakes game of tech containment. But look, this isn't just some abstract economic chess match. This stuff has very real, very serious consequences. Let's shift gears and look at how this all plays out on an actual battlefield. We're talking about Operation Epic Fury. This was the 2026 US-Israeli campaign against Iran, and it really became the first time we saw full-scale algorithmic warfare in action. Just let this number sink in for a second. More than 2,000. That's how many targets were identified and hit by AI systems in just the first week. According to the Bloomsbury Intelligence and Security Institute, that's a speed and a scale that's just, it's completely impossible for human analysts to keep up with. This is the new speed of war. And here are some of the AI systems that made it happen. So while the US and Israel were using these incredibly advanced systems like Project Maven and Lavender for precision targeting, Iran, which was at a huge disadvantage conventionally, had to respond differently, asymmetrically. They used massive swarms of autonomous drones and launched deepfake operations to just sow chaos and try to break down public support for the whole campaign. And this is where we get to the really profound ethical fallout. This quote, which echoes concerns from a lot of human rights groups, just gets right to the heart of it. When an algorithm is generating targets at this insane volume, what happens to human judgment? to moral responsibility. The line between a soldier and a civilian gets incredibly blurry, and you run the risk of human life just being reduced to a statistical probability.
So while the US and China are locked in this massive rivalry, you might think the rest of the world is just kind of watching from the sidelines. But they're not. Not at all. A really powerful counter-movement has been bubbling up, especially in the global south, and it's all about finding a third way.
And that path has a name: sovereign AI. The idea behind it is actually pretty simple, but it's also revolutionary. Instead of just becoming passive customers for American or Chinese tech, these nations are saying, no, we're going to build our own AI ecosystems from the ground up. They're putting money into their own data centers and their own models to make sure the AI they use actually reflects their own languages, their own cultures, and their own national goals. It's basically a declaration of digital independence.
And this isn't just some theory, right? It's happening everywhere. Take a look at India's AI mission. They're building a huge domestic compute infrastructure. Or in Africa, where the African Union is getting out ahead of things, using data protection laws to shape how AI gets used right from the start. Brazil is a huge champion for this on the world stage, and even the Gulf states. Yeah, they're buying US hardware, but they're also pouring billions into creating their own unique AI-driven economies.
But this whole push for sovereignty faces a massive hurdle. And this quote from Arthur Sidney at techpolicy.press just nails it. A lot of these nations are coming up with really sophisticated rules and frameworks for AI. The problem is what he calls governance without power. In other words, you can have the best rules in the world, but if you don't have the market size or the control over the infrastructure, it's really hard to make those rules stick globally. So when you put it all together, where does that leave us? Well, we've basically entered a new and pretty dangerously fragmented global landscape. And it's one that is almost entirely defined by this competition for algorithmic dominance. So let's just recap this new world order real quick. You've basically got three main poles of power. First, the US leading its hardware-focused Pax Silica alliance. Second, China building out its industry-focused smart economy. And third, you have the nations of the global south, all trying to forge their own path with sovereign AI. And the end result of all these competing visions is a situation that the World Economic Forum describes perfectly as multipolarity without multilateralism. What does that mean? It means we have multiple centers of power, sure, but there's very little cooperation between them. National interests and this whole battle of competing AI stacks are consistently winning out over any real attempt to create shared global rules for this incredibly powerful technology. And that leaves us with what might just be the central question of our time. The great algorithmic realignment isn't coming. It's already here. This technology is reshaping our world at a truly breathtaking pace. The one thing that hasn't been decided yet is this: are we, as a global community, going to find a way to steer this transformation together, or are we just going to let the raw, unfiltered competition for dominance be the thing that governs us? The stakes, honestly, could not be higher.